Now, on the biggest stories, the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, Mr. Simon Achuba, has been impeached. Mr. Achuba was impeached by members of the Kogi State House of Assembly on Friday in Lokoja, the state capital. The majority leader of the House disclosed this to reporters at the premises of the Assembly complex. He was sworn in February 2016 and he did in fact defect from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, the APC. He has been a former deputy speaker of the Kogi State House of Assembly, and this is happening about just a month to the governorship elections in the state. Can this impeachment stand the test of time, though? What next for the impeached deputy governor? Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. Follow us right now on m.channelstv.com and on Facebook as well. We've got all our social media platforms covered. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV. Use the hashtag State of the Nation. Let's get your thoughts in. The federal government has organized labor has sealed the deal on the implementation of the new minimum wage after 3 days of talks that ran through nights and ended in the wee hours of mornings. At the meeting, which started about 7 p.m. on Thursday, ended after 2 a.m. on Friday, both sides finally agreed to the percentage increase for grades level 7 to 17. What does this mean to labor? In all, is it a uhuru for the government? We'll analyze all of this in just a moment. It's prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Hello everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Umar and this is State of the Nation. Labour has reached a deal at last after days of nights and meetings and the deliberations that ultimately ended an impending strike by union workers. The breakdown of the deal shows that COMMES wage structure reveals these facts about it. Grade levels 7 has a 23% increase, level 8, 20% increase, level 9, 19%, level 10 to 14, 16%, level 15 to 17, 14%. Now, CONHES, CONRISE, CONTES, and so on has this facts about them. Level 7 has been increased to 22.2%, level 8 to 14, 16%, level 15 to 17, 10.5%. Linus Ukemba, an industrial arbitrator, joins me in the studios to analyze this. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on State of the Nation. Obviously, you've been following up on this warning strike by Labour before now. We're not going through that at some point. But their demands for the implementation of this minimum wage are not yet uhuru, are they, judging from what we have seen? Are you satisfied from the way that the government and Labour have handled this?
I want to say, at last, the negotiation has ended. At least we have to congratulate those who took part in this marathon, first of its kind, negotiation in the world.
Was it absolutely necessary?
It's not the fault of the workers. It's not the fault of those who are representing government. I think that we have a system that is geared to fail. Or we're implementing a system that should be straightforward, but we're making it look difficult. Part of the time I switched off because negotiating minimum wage for 6 years, people use that period of time to develop rocket science, rockets to the moon, and do wonderful things. But to negotiate minimum wage, which the law has stated, every 5 years review this minimum wage. And then we can't do that for 6 years. So for now, it is a kind of relief that we can say we have completed the negotiation.
So looking at where we're coming from 18,000 naira minimum wage to where we are at now is the minimum wage of 30,000 naira, depending on the scale, the CONMES, CONHES, and so on. It depends on where you fall into. But would you say that we should be celebrating this one?
Somebody has not told me the value of the 30,000 naira in relation to the 18,000 naira at the time it was awarded. The naira value has plunged. So the person who earned 18,000 naira earlier, and the person who has started work recently and is earning 30,000 is not better off.
So then in this case...
So in actual fact, the minimum wage have not improved.
So analyze this for a better understanding, if you will, different levels with different percentage of increases so that we can understand this very well. If we can get that slide out from my producer there. These are the increases that we've seen, highest being 23% for grade level 7 and 10%, the lowest increase for grade levels 15 to 17. What does this mean in effect for everyone who is involved in this, especially the government workers?
What labor and management, government and employers negotiate at the end of minimum wage is the differentials. These new consequentials is a new grammar, a new creativity to get us out of not doing the proper thing. Okay? So if you can't do the right thing, you give it a new name so that whatever you can do.
Are you saying it's the same of the same?
It's not the same of the same. Differentials is quite different from consequentials. Differentials keeps you the percentage between grade level 01 and grade level 12. Between each grade, there is a figure that's known to both employers and labor. So when you increase the minimum, you still retain those differentials, in which case it will be far higher than this 22, 19% and 20%. All this a new creativity. I think that I give kudos to those people who were able to get this new lexicon, to pull us out of this negotiation. Otherwise, it would last for another 2 years.
So let's take a look at the CONHES, CONRISE and CONTES, and several others, very important subunits for the payment structures. But unions made demands. Johisu, for instance, said in 2016 the Federal Ministry of Health has been frustrating the implementation of the court judgment by introducing same-scale promotions. It explains this, saying that, for instance, when members are promoted from CONHES 9 to 11, at subsequent promotions, they will be promoted from CONHES 11 to CONHES 11, and said that this is totally unacceptable. Does this finally deal and addresses those demands that we've seen, for instance, in Johetsu, such that we don't have strikes propping up again in the nearest future?
Look, my brother Gimba, we have tried it over. It's difficult to run this wide country, this large employment or employees of the federal government, by having only one negotiation for all of them. Okay? Each of these salary or each of these unions have different entry qualifications and are doing different works. Those in the health industry are doing quite a different work from those in the core civil service and so on and so forth. Now, there are unions. Those unions have a responsibility, and they have negotiating councils. They have a responsibility to negotiate for those who are in that industry. They know better, okay? And the employer directly knows better, like NECA. NECA is in charge of all the private sector employers. They don't negotiate for all private sector employers and put all of them together. Those in the banks negotiate with the bank employers. Those in the
Does the Nubife, they do theirs separately?
the negotiates with on its own. Okay, they can take less, they can take more. Okay, in that case, you have a situation where the negotiating ability of the workers reflects in the agreement they get, and they're satisfied with it. There's no way workers are going to be satisfied with this difference between 0.7 to 1% or 20% here, 19% here. They're not going to be very happy with it. Because when you apply that in practice, you find out that those who are on the lower scale, okay, on a lower grade, who have done about more years of service, 6, 7 years of service, will be earning more than those who are senior to them. Because this 1% increase or difference between level, those getting 19% and those getting 20%, will just disappear when you add the lower grade and the number of years they have served and the number of steps they are in. Doesn't make sense. There will be I don't know.
So this is not a satisfactory
it's not satisfactory or expected, because what we know and what people who have been fighting for the minimum wage are hoping for is not met by this. But like I said earlier, it's a new lexicon, it's a new consequential or whatever it is. It serves this purpose now, because by the time you negotiate for 6 years, the benefit you would have gotten if the minimum wage was half of what is given now. So instead of 30,000, if we had 20,000 3 years ago, we would have been better off today. So stretching negotiation for 6 years and then ending up with what is confusing to everybody is not the best. But like I said earlier, I keep repeating, we want to thank them for the creative way in which they have ended this long negotiation.
Let's look at the, perhaps if we can get any positives in terms of solutions to some of these issues that you've raised not being very satisfactory for you, you say. But some believe and say that despite these increases, you still have to contend with the issues of the tax dragnet, which has been put at 7.5% for the 2020 budget, even though the government is saying it's not increasing the price of petrol at some point. How does this work for you? Is this taken away from the people's pockets, even though they've been increased, salaries have been increased for them?
Under the Obasanjo regime, we were given 100% increase on minimum wage, and the dollar crashed. So that you take 100% of your minimum wage and you go home and you can't buy anything. You get the point. You give with one hand, you take with the other. You now make minimum wage of 6 years negotiation, and then you now increase tax. You almost go home with nothing, worse off than they were before. But like I said, the structure is the difficulty. The law says adjust or increase minimum wage after every 5 years. This is part of the Constitution. It's a law that the National Assembly can amend. Now, the way it operates in Nigeria is that we have the National Labour Advisory Council that is made up of the federal government, NECA, which are the employers in the private sector, and the trade unions. Okay? Those are the three people in the National Labour Advisory Council. They negotiate among themselves, they discuss among themselves, and they advise the government to say, this 5,000 minimum wage, looking at inflation and increase it to 7,000. Now, the federal government takes it to the National Assembly and said, we want to give 7,000. And if the National Assembly deems it fit and say, no, 7,000 is more, they want to pay 8. And they make it a law. If there are 2/3 majority in the National Assembly, they'll pass it to become law. And everybody will got to go and live with it. But this straightforward thing that even all members can understand has been created a lot of confusion. Even governors in their states are taking the prime time television and talking about minimum wage. You get the point?
You think that is wrong?
That is wrong. This country is not a free-for-all.
That's a good place to let it rest. I must thank you so much indeed, Elder Linus Ukamba, an industrial arbitrator, for talking to us on this very, if you would say happy or sad, it depends on which side of the divide you belong to.
Everybody should be
30,000 naira minimum wage, of course, with different percentages of increases for different level of workers. When State of the Nation returns, I will focus on electricity conundrum. Stay with us.